for a filthy drop.
Welcome back on my channel and welcome back to my newest video of the pick and predictions for the IEM Rio Major in 2022. So as you see, we just concluded the Challenger stage and pretty surprisingly I got 7 out of 9 picks correct, since as you can see BNE and Mouse just went through with a clean sweep of a 3-0, which I actually didn't expect to happen in this way. Especially BNE kinda surprised me with this one. Followed by getting through with a 3-1 score is Big, Furia and Outsiders, which are 3 correct picks. Followed by Cloud9, Vitality and Fnatic, who got through the stage with a close 3-2. And miserably leading to the OG game, which just got out in a 2-3 fashion. And ripping my 0-3 pick with IHC, actually winning a game, which I never ever would have expected. Imperial and 0-0 Nation getting out of the major with an 0-3 score, meaning that 2 out of the 3 Brazilian teams just got swept out of the major in their hometown with their home crowd in an 0-3 fashion, and I think the 0-3 pick literally just ripped for everybody in this major this year. Moving on to the way more harder and way more important Legends stage, and as you can see in the following, every single top 15 team from the HLTV ranking except for the number 6, which would be G2, which got out in the RMR in just a 1-3 fashion, and of course with OG at the spot of number 14, missing this part of the major since they just got out in the last stage, or in the last round of the last stage. So yeah, we are left with quite a heavy hit if you ask me, and it's definitely not going to be an easy decision. And I'm just gonna walk you through the first matchup days and talk to you why I think this picks, which you can see right now on the screen, could be the most fitting and the most safe ones. And I'm just gonna refer to an HLTV comment which I saw recently, and I kinda had to agree with it, at least in most of the points, when he named those games. So basically only the game Mouse versus Liquid and the games of Furia against Ents don't have any stories. Other than that, we have Spirit against BNE, which is called like the Dark Horse match. And actually, I don't think that any of these 2 teams get through the stage overall, even though Spirit managed to get quite a good run in the last major. They have struggled at least a little bit in recent times, and won against some notable teams, for example like BNE in the past, like Cloud9, but they also lost against Vitality, against Sprout and the Fnatic, which didn't look super promising. And on the other hand, even though BNE just qualified 3-0, but they just beat 0-0 Nation, Big, which of course was a completely utter situation for Big if you ask me, and hitting Gamer Legion just right in the face with a 2-0. They still lost against, for example, Tyloo or 9-9, and I don't think both of these teams will get through this stage. Heading to the Mouse against Liquid game, which basically has no name as well, but in my opinion, even though Mouse looked strong in the last stage by beating Outsiders, Evil Geniuses and Fnatic, I don't think that they will stand a chance, even though it's a best of 1 and anything could happen in this situation. I hardly would recommend to say Liquid will get through this, just because they seem to groove in with the newest edition of Yakinder, and I think this is gonna be quite promising lineup from Liquid if you ask me right now. Heading on to the next 2 games, which will be FaZe against Cloud9 and Sprout against Big, where we had the names of FaZe versus C9 would be reconsidered as the E-League Major Boston final rematch, even though C9 was back in the days, I think it was in 2018, a complete American lineup, and FaZe had some slightly and some minor changes as well, but this would be considered as the Boston final rematch. And I think, even though Cloud9 struggled a lot in the last stage, I think they will make it through, since when it matters, they are there. That's the most important point. Yeah, sure, they lost 2 games in the last stage, But when it matters, they were there, they were clean, they were sweep, they didn't make too many mistakes. And I think, hard to say, but Cloud9 should get through. FaZe, no despite, I think they will get through at least to the quarters. I think they are strongly a contender for the whole major to win it at all. Either them, Na'Vi, or Liquid, at least in my opinion right now. I would have added Vitality as well, but they struggled a lot in the recent games. Just looking at the head-to-head counter, which seems to be at 10-8 right now, I would pretty much consider to get FaZe through this one overall, because the last game against Cloud9 they just lost, and therefore it's CS and HLTV logic, they have to win the next one. And yeah, that's basically about this game. I think both of these teams gonna get through, even though Cloud9 probably get like a bit of a harder time. Which will be followed by the game of Sprout versus Big, which was referred in the comment as the German derby. And even though Sprout managed to qualify for the Legends stage immediately and skipping the Challenger stage, I still think they didn't found their groove, and on top of that they are the lowest ranked team in the HLTV ranking system, which doesn't mean exactly that much, but I would say they still lack a bit of firepower, they lack a bit of experience, since many of their players are a bit younger than most of the players overall at this major. And just considering that Big managed to do so freaking well with its stand-in, I would rather just go with the big boys in this situation. So continued by the game against, and this is one of the biggest ones if you ask me, and it would be like the duel of top players, Vitality versus Na'Vi, which apparently I would go for Na'Vi since Vitality struggled a lot in the last stage. Nonetheless, I would still say that Vitality get through this stage of the major, since they are currently ranked at the HLTV ranking spot 2. And they have a pretty strong lineup if they get their shit together, and if they just manage to assemble around our good boy ZywOo. So I would just say, yeah, take the hit, go with them. It might be worth it, even though they're gonna probably lose the first game. So we have the next game would be Outsiders against Heroic, which the comment just referred to the Opera IGL chess match, which is kind of fitting if you ask me, because they have both two great in-game leaders, with Outsiders having Jame and with Heroic having Cadian. Both of them tend to overthink their situation, both of them tend to maybe make some mistakes, but out of the fact that you want to outsmart your enemy. But if both of these IGLs gonna just think like that, I think it's gonna be a rough time. Nonetheless, I'm definitely going with Heroic all the way in this situation, even though Outsiders managed to do quite strong in the last stage and just struggled a little bit against Mouse. But I don't think we will see them on the big stage, because here are way better teams that could beat them easily in a best of 3 fashion. So I'm just gonna go with Heroic in this one. And gonna conclude this day with the game of Furia against ENCE and the game of Nip against Fnatic. Starting off with the minor game, Furia against ENCE. ENCE struggled a lot since they traded away some of their players. Furia still got the home advantage, and on top of that managed to qualify 3-1 just by losing a close game to Big. And yeah, they struggled a bit against OG, but they had a quite good comeback if you ask me. And I would definitely consider to say Furia will get through this stage to the playoffs, just because of the fact they played super insanely good in the last stage, and they had like some promising results overall in the last time. And on top of that, they still got the home advantage and crowd boost. And just to conclude the whole thing will be the El Derby Clásico, Ninjas in Pyjamas versus Fnatic. And Fnatic showed off quite strong, even though they struggled 2 games in a row against Mouse and Outsiders, and finally managed to qualify by beating 9Z. I think they have a bright future ahead, even though the right things didn't click in perfectly right now at the moment. I mean, they could be easily considered. So going through the whole thing, FaZe and Na'Vi, in my opinion, are quite the easiest picks overall, because those two teams are just like the big names, and you should reconsider getting them into your pick'em, because just of the raw firepower, just of the raw experience those teams got. Liquid showed some fucking promising results overall. Heroic, still a contender for the titles, even though they never managed to win anything important lately, so I would say they get through, but I don't think they will get far, or at least will get this far of a run into the whole major or into the playoffs. Followed by Furia, which is just for me the same thing like picking big in the previous stage, because you have to go with these guys. You just have to pray that at least one Brazilian team restores their hope for the major. Especially when two of your teams, for example like Imperial and 0-0 Nation, just got kicked out 0-3 in the last stage. Followed by Vitality, which is kind of a rough pick. You could definitely and easily exchange them for Fnatic, because it just depends like on the daily peak they reach, I would say. Because just simply of the fact Fnatic is still finding together and still have to divide a few things and still have to settle a few things, and Vitality struggled a lot, but when Vitality get the ball rolling, and they definitely just going through it with ease and no mercy overall. So I would still say picking Vitality isn't the baddest thing overall. And concluded by Cloud9 getting through the stage. As mentioned before, they could fail at least as well. And the second thing, which I'm not so 100% sure about, is would be picking Spirit, since they made a quite nice run in the last major as well. But I don't think they will make it through, because like lately they haven't been showing the best results, and who knows, maybe they're surprised, maybe they go through 3-0 again. You could easily pick Fnatic into the normal teams that get through this stage. You could easily remove therefore Vitality or Cloud9, and you could just simply pick NIP, which I highly hope that they get through the stage 3-0, because starting off against Fnatic, they just lost the last best of 3, quite convincing for Fnatic, and I would just say that would be quite a nice time to get a revenge against them. So I just got for the 3-0 pick with NIP, but you easily could exchange them against Spirit, I guess, as well, because they are kind of a wild card dark horse. And yeah, so these are my picks for the Legends stage of the IEM Rio Major in 2022. I hope at least a few guys of you followed my picks in the last stage to get safely through this situation with a 7 out of 9 score, which is quite okay. Even close to being the best result I've ever gotten in a major pick'em stage, so I'm quite happy about that. And yeah, the only thing which is left for me is to thank you all for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment, leave a subscription, and just let me know in the comments which teams you agree with me and which teams you don't agree, which would you swap out, and maybe give me a reason why. And I'm gonna catch you all on the last video, the Champions phase. Until then, see ya.
I done grew around some people living their life in bottles. Granddaddy had the golden flash, backstroke every day in Chicago. Some people like the way it feels, some people want to kill their sorrow. Some people want to fit in with the popular, that was my problem. I was in a dark room, loud tunes, looking to make a vow soon.